Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. If I could have your attention, please. Good afternoon. Here at the Carnegie Endowment, we believe that one dessert is never enough. So in addition to the kiloton calorie course on your plates, we have in store a second dessert this afternoon. As all of you know, Director General Amano is one of the world's wisest statesmen, and he is the extraordinary leader of one of the world's most extraordinary international organizations. With each day, the demands placed on the International Atomic Energy Agency continue to grow. The world looks to the IAEA for training and expertise in peaceful uses of nuclear technology to promote food and water security, environmental sustainability, and public health. The world looks to the IAEA to ensure that nuclear energy is safe and secure. And the world looks to the IAEA to stop the spread of nuclear weapons and illicit materials. Since 2009, Director General Amano has answered the world's call and dealt with a number of unprecedented challenges, from the complicated Iranian nuclear file to the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Director General Amano has managed increased demands and countless crises with equanimity, skill, and most impressively, flat resources. After Director General Amano's remarks, the Guardian's Nathalie Nougared, an extraordinarily skilled professional in her own right, will lead a discussion and then invite your questions. Ms. Nougared knows a thing or two about leading invaluable institutions under rising pressures and diminished resources, and we're very fortunate that she's agreed to launch our conversation this afternoon. If there's one thing I learned in 33 years as a diplomat, it is never to stand in the way of dessert, even if it is a second one. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Director General Amano. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am very pleased to be back at Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. I imagine that our discussion today is likely to focus on the agency's nuclear verification work and on one country in particular. Before getting to that, let me say just a few words about an equally important area of our work, peaceful uses. Peaceful uses of nuclear technology are one of the three pillars of the NPT, alongside non-proliferation and disarmament. The IAEA helps to make nuclear science and technology available to generate power, electricity, improve human and animal health, increase food production, and much more. People are often surprised at some of the things that we are doing. For example, during the latest Ebola breakout in West Africa, we supplied affected countries with simple kits so they could diagnose the disease quickly. By using our kits, they can diagnose Ebola in 4 hours. By the traditional means, it takes 4 days. This difference of 4 hours and 4 days makes huge difference. I believe that nuclear science and technology have much to contribute to sustainable development. I feel that our mandate could be best understood today as atoms for peace and development. The United States is the biggest contributor to the IAEA's Technical Cooperation Fund. This fund helps member states, especially developing countries, enjoy the considerable benefits of peaceful technology. The United States also helped to launch the Peaceful Use Initiative in 2010 to provide additional funds for this purpose. I hope to see the importance of science and technology explicitly recognized as a central part of the post-2015 development agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, I could say much more about the work of the IAEA in areas as nuclear energy, nuclear safety, and nuclear security, but time is short. So I will move on to the subject of safeguards implementation in Iran. When I became IAEA Director General in December 2009, Iran had already been on the IAEA's agenda for 7 years. I'm a fairly systematic person, and I like to work from first principles. The key point is that the IAEA is committed to resolving the Iran nuclear issue through dialogue. The IAEA, the United Nations, and individual member states all have their parts to play and need to cooperate with each other. Only one cannot resolve the problem. Everyone, every party needs to do its job and cooperate. Right from the start, I stressed the fundamental principle that all safeguards agreements between the IAEA and member states, including Iran, should be fully implemented. I stated, so should other relevant obligations, such as resolution of the United Nations Security Council. The safeguard agreement must be fully implemented, but other relevant obligations should be also implemented. I felt that spelling out the issues with clarity was an essential first step towards resolving the problems concerning Iran's nuclear activities. My quarterly reports to the IAEA Board of Governors from 2010 onwards stated that nuclear material declared by Iran was not being diverted from peaceful purposes. But I also stated that Iran was not providing sufficient cooperation to enable the agency to conclude that all nuclear material in Iran was in peaceful activities. I urged Iran to implement the additional protocol and clarify the issues relating to what have become known as possible military dimensions to its nuclear program. In November 2011, I presented a detailed report to our Board of Governors and identified 12 areas of concern. I stated that information obtained by the agency indicated that Iran had carried out activities relevant to the development of a nuclear weapon device. The information also indicated that before the end of 2003, these activities took place under a structured program, and that some activities might still be ongoing. In response to my report, the IAEA Board and the UN Security Council adopted resolutions asking Iran to cooperate with the agency to clarify issues relating to possible military dimensions in order to restore international confidence in the exclusively peaceful nature of its nuclear program. Ladies and gentlemen, the main change since my last visit to Carnegie in April 2011 is that a very important dialogue has been taking place between Iran and the so-called P5+1 countries, China, France, Germany, the Russian Federation, the United States, and the United States. They agreed a joint plan of action in late 2013. At around the same time, Iran and the IAEA agreed on a framework for cooperation. The basic objective was to resolve all outstanding issues, past and present, through strengthened cooperation and a step-by-step approach. So, where do we stand today? As far as the agency's own work to implement safeguards in Iran is concerned, we continue to verify the non-diversion of nuclear material declared by Iran, but we are still not in a position to conclude that all nuclear material in Iran is in peaceful purpose. The framework for cooperation worked for the first few months to help improve our understanding of Iran's nuclear program. Progress has been very limited in clarifying issues with possible military dimensions. As far as the joint plan of action between Iran and the 6 countries is concerned, IAEA inspectors who are continuously present on the ground in Iran have been able to verify that Iran is meeting its commitments under that agreement. The latest round of talks between Iran and the 6 countries has been taking place in Switzerland, but as the IAEA is not a party to these talks, I cannot tell what the outcome will be. Ladies and gentlemen, I remain committed to working with Iran to restore international confidence in the peaceful nature of its nuclear program. 2 things are of special importance for the IAEA. First, with the cooperation of Iran, the IAEA needs to clarify issues with possible military dimensions to the satisfaction of our member states. We'll do all we can to clarify these issues, as requested by the IAEA Board of Governors and the UN Security Council. We expect Iran to be as transparent as possible. We will then present an objective, impartial report to our member states. The IAEA is a technical organization, and our job is to establish the facts to the best of our ability. It is up to our member states to determine the appropriate response. Second, Iran needs to implement the additional protocol so that the agency can provide credible assurance about the absence of undeclared nuclear material and activities in Iran. The agency will continue to play an essential role in the future, including in verifying nuclear-related measures to be implemented by Iran if a comprehensive agreement is reached with the 6 countries. We will remain the eyes and ears of the international community on nuclear matters in Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that even complex and challenging issues can be resolved if all parties are committed to dialogue. Not dialogue for its own sake, but dialogue aimed at achieving results. In the case of Iran's nuclear program, the sustained efforts of the IAEA, the P5+1 countries, the UN Security Council, and of course, Iran itself are needed. All of us must work closely together. We must be steadfast, patient, and persistent. The IAEA will do what is necessary on its part to achieve a satisfactory resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is my microphone working? Thank you very much for those opening remarks. We have a little over half an hour, and so I will be putting a few questions to the Director General after his very interesting opening statement, and then we will get the floor to engage with the Director General, and I'm sure there are many intensive questions being prepared. I think none of us were expecting that this conference and this particular discussion would happen in the middle of a crunch time in the Iran negotiations. So this makes the discussion with you, Director General, particularly interesting. I started following the Iran nuclear issue back in 2005, and I thought it was an incredible way as a journalist to look at the issues of our world and international relations and international security in the 21st century, bringing so many factors together. I certainly did not expect that 10 years later we would still be dealing with this issue in even starker ways. I'm going to go right in with the first question, if I may. You've just reminded us how outspoken the agency and you were back in November of 2011, releasing a report that detailed the activities that had been carried out by Iran related to the production of nuclear weapon. And the latest report from the IAEA in February says that indeed there has been no cooperation from Iran on clarifying the military dimensions, the possible military dimensions, and you have alluded to that just now. Is it possible in your mind to have a solid, sustainable agreement between the P5+1 and Iran without, as a prerequisite, putting on the table the question of clarifying the military dimensions of Iran's program? Would the IAEA be able in the future to guarantee that Iran would not go to nuclear weapons if it doesn't have the possibility and the answers coming from Iran related to those concerns?
Thank you. Yes, it is true that I reported in 2011 on the concerns of the IAEA in 12 areas. Then we engaged in negotiations with Iran for 2 years without concrete result. And then in autumn 2013, we reached an agreement which is called Framework for Cooperation. The idea is to move from easy thing to more difficult thing and take a step-by-step approach. We made some progress, and we have produced some concrete result by implementing this framework for cooperation. And it is also true that we have had some engagement from Iran on issues with possible military dimension. But in the past several months, the progress is very limited. How can we move forward? I feel it is very important to clarify the 12 years. So in February this year, I went to Munich and had a meeting with Minister Zarif. And I said 2 things. High-level regular meeting is needed to address this issue. And we need to accelerate the clarification. It was followed by the visit of Vice Minister Araguchi to Vienna. And we keep on discussing, but the fact is that the progress is limited. I said in my statement that IAEA, United Nations, member states need to cooperate each other. And lots of activities are ongoing. IAEA will do its best, but we need the assistance from other parties, like 6 world powers. And we hope that with the agreement on the comprehensive agreement, we would be better placed to clarify the issues in the past. Can we clarify everything? We don't know yet. It depends very much on the level of cooperation and pace of cooperation from Iran. Next question is that suppose everything is not clarified. How can we have confidence in the future? I would say that Iran cooperating with us as much as possible, ensure as high transparency as possible, will place the ground for the solid future, for the good, a better future. So it is the interest of Iran itself to clarify the issues with possible military dimension. And I hope that Iran understand this point. For the future, I believe the implementation of additional protocol is very important. Additional protocol is a more powerful tool of verification than the existing one on the comprehensive safeguard agreement. And with this more powerful verification tool called additional protocol, we can request access to the sites that are not declared. With that, we can have better confidence on the absence of undeclared activities. We can ask the short notice inspection and then they don't have time to conceal anything. This additional protocol is used in 124 countries, and with this, we can have better confidence in the exclusively peaceful nature of Iran nuclear activities, like in other countries.
Let me push you a little bit
Yes.
on that. You clearly said that the IAEA is not party to the ongoing negotiation, and which is supposed to reconvene sometime in the following days. Do you regret that? And if, as you said, the negotiating powers were providing the help that you're calling for, you're saying the P5+1 should be. The IAEA is turning to the P5+1 to ask for that kind of support on clarifying the military dimension. Do you feel that that is an issue that should be included in any agreement, and that should be put in the initial steps of an agreement with Iran?
The basis of the clarification of PMD issues with possible military dimension is the United Nations Security Council resolutions and Board of Governors resolutions. And these 6 powers are the important members of the international community and UN members. So it is just natural. They have interest in how to facilitate the implementation of the United Nations Security Council resolutions that request the clarification of the issues with possible military dimension.
If an agreement is made with Iran, and I know hypothetical questions aren't very good in journalism, but if an agreement is made with Iran without putting the clarification of the possible military dimensions as a prerequisite, are you comfortable that the agency will be able to verify in the future, in the years to come, Iran's activities and give the assurances that the international community will want?
As the technical organization, we do not speculate. But the fact is that, we did our best to clarify the issues with possible military dimension. And I said the outcome is quite limited, and you can tell what is needed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And my other question on this negotiation is: what do you feel the outcome might be this week? Do you think that we're going to be heading towards a framework agreement? What is your outlook on the current state of affairs with all the comments that have been made over the last days?
I have been following this issue for a long time, and I can say with confidence that now there is some the political will on all the parties concerned to resolve the issue through dialogue and cooperation. And the issues that this P5+1 and Iran are dealing, and what IAEA, Iran are doing, there's a slight difference. The P5+1 also dealing with the political issues and sanctions, but IAEA does not. We are focusing on verification issues. But of course, there are some areas that duplicate, and we need to cooperate each other, we need to help each other.
Do you see this whole dossier evolve in a way where the IAEA's efforts should be tightly articulated with the other part of the negotiation? And how do you see the articulation? Can you dwell on that a little bit? How do you see exactly the articulation between your work and the P5+1 negotiation?
As we don't know the outcome, so it's difficult to say. But one very clear thing is that if agreement is reached, it will be the IAEA that will implement the nuclear-related elements. I can say that because now we have the interim agreement, which is called a Joint Plan of Action. It was negotiated and agreed between P5+1 and Iran. And that agreement came to the policy-making organ, Board of Governors, and they authorized us to implement. So we are implementing. I suspect that if P5+1 and Iran reach agreement on the comprehensive agreement, it is just natural that the IAEA will be asked to implement it, will play an essential role in implementing this agreement.
And so far, looking at your discussions with Mr. Salehi, who runs the Iranian atomic organization, energy organization, what would you say about the quality of the cooperation you would be getting, and how are you preparing the verifications and the inspections that will be needed in implementing any agreement?
I would say that as far as the implementation of the comprehensive safeguard agreement, we have good cooperation from Iran. We are also implementing the joint plan of action, and we can also say that the implementation is good. But with respect to the clarification of the issues with possible military dimension, the progress is limited. And this is the area where more proactive cooperation from Iran is needed.
Thank you. I think I'm going to try to open it up to the floor if there are any questions. I just wanted to throw in one little observation. It's a personal observation. When I visited your offices and your predecessor was in place at the IAEA, I noticed that there was a painting, the reproduction of a painting. This painting is called The Scream, and it's by the Norwegian painter Edvard Munch. And I looked at this painting, where, you know, the painting with this man holding his face and looking at the sky and screaming, and the sky's red. And I thought that wasn't a very good omen. So I was wondering whether the painting was still in your office, because the Director General told me that he had changed one thing in the office, which is that the carpet has been taken out and there's now a beautiful wooden floor. But is that particular painting still in your office?
The painting is replaced by the IAEA logo.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to, I see one hand in the back. I think that's Mark Fitzpatrick, and then I'm going to go to the left and move forward.
Thank you, Director General. Thank you, Director General, for a very clear exposition. In this town, there are some specialists who say that the IAEA is inherently unable to adequately verify safeguards at large facilities, bulk handling facilities, so that when the limits of a deal expire in 10 or 15 years, and Iran adds 50,000 centrifuges to Natanz, they say the IAEA cannot adequately prevent diversion because of the inherent inadequacies of material accountancy. Can you tell us whether the IAEA will be able to adequately verify a large enrichment facility in Iran?
Yes.
I have no doubt that the IAEA has a capacity. Even now, we send inspectors to Iran. We do not have a permanent office, but as we send inspectors, in the past we had always some 2 to 4 or 4 inspectors on the ground, and we have more now. Some of the facilities are visited every day, the most sensitive ones. Other facilities, less sensitive ones, are visited once a week. And that means that if there is any abnormality, we can detect the change on the following day, on the very same day, or in 1 week's time. Our objective is to detect the diversion or misuse of nuclear material in a timely manner. 1 day, 1 week's time, I think it is a timely timeline for detection.
Yes. The lady in the back, please. Yes.
My name is Cindy Vestergaard from the Danish Institute for International Studies. There's a podium in our way, so I'm just going to move a little forward. My question is regarding implementation of safeguards in Ukraine. In terms of the two camps, as I understand. If you can't go in and actually have access to contested areas, can you make a national conclusion? And if not, then how do you address that issue in terms of only being able to access areas where you can access, and then by nature splitting up the country in a way?
Okay.
We are now considering the safeguard implementation in Ukraine. So we don't have yet the conclusion, and we will provide a report perhaps in May. So please wait the release of a report. But our position is that the IAEA has been functioning in accordance with its statute. The IAEA has the cooperation agreement with the United Nations, and a part of the cooperation agreement between the United Nations IAEA states that IAEA should consider the resolution of the United Nations General Assembly. It pronounced that Crimea stays a part of Ukrainian territory. So we are operating with this understanding. The safeguard agreement that should be that is applied is Ukraine IAEA safeguard agreement. In reality, we cannot send inspectors to Crimea, and then I will draw factual conclusion based on this fact.
So there we have a clear hint that it's possible nuclear weapons will be deployed in Crimea. You consider that, you have that as a clear possibility.
The IAEA's objective is to ensure that the nuclear material and facility should not be used for military purpose. It is not a function to verify the nuclear weapons. We are not verifying nuclear weapons in any country.
Okay, let me take the gentleman with the beard. And sorry, I haven't been looking much this way. I'll take a few questions.
Hi, Matthew Bunn from Harvard University. Okay. Getting back to the main topic of your talk, Iran. Iran has largely supplied its enrichment activities and its heavy water reactor with illicit procurement. And the UN sanctions resolutions have prohibited transfers to Iran of certain nuclear and dual-use items. But presumably, once there's a comprehensive agreement and Iran has a permitted nuclear activity under that agreement, one would have to guess, be allowed to procure things to support the permitted activities. And I'm wondering how you might imagine that the IAEA would be able to monitor whether they were carrying out procurement in addition to the authorized procurements under a future comprehensive agreement.
Thank you. At the outset, I said that United Nations, international community, and IAEA should cooperate each other, should play their own part in order to resolve the issue. I did not mention specifically the export control regimes, but export control regimes and national authority have a role to play to control the exports. IAEA does not have the responsibility and capacity to control the export and import. What we can do is to verify the nuclear material. If we find the nuclear material which is not under safeguard, we will say so. whether that is coming from other country by export or import, or it is produced in the country. So our function is to verify the nuclear material and facilities. Export control is done by other international entities and national authorities.
Thank you. I think we have one question over here. Thank you.
Secretary General, thank you for your answer thus far. I want to ask you about the implementation of a possible agreement that will now be much more ambitious and will involve what at least the US administration calls Addition Protocol Plus, which would get you into places that the IAEA does not normally monitor, just has been in the case of the JPOA, but beyond it, and would require you to go on a regular basis, presumably to military and IRGC facilities, and perhaps to do some wide area monitoring. So what I'm trying to understand, if you can shed some light on it, would it require special Board of Governor resolutions? Would it require special training of inspectors? Would it require an additional budget for the IAEA? And what kind of obstacles would you think might arise in trying to gear up to implement this on a regular basis for quite a few years? Thank you.
I say yes to all of the points that you made. We have challenges in all the areas. Let me be more precise. Suppose an agreement is reached, it is very likely that we need to go through the Board of Governors. This is a very important project, and if we implement the nuclear-related elements, we need a solid basis. And in order to have a solid basis, we may wish to have the endorsement and support by our member states through the Board of Governors. Does it require the additional fund, additional skill and stuff? Yes. We need additional fund, and we are now brainstorming the ways how to raise fund. But money cannot resolve all the problems. Human resource is very important. We have skilled inspectors, but further training may be needed. We also train younger people to join the team. So we'll have the need to go through the Board of Governors. If the timing is not the best, special Board of Governors, we need certainly additional fund and some more inspectors.
So that's I'm sorry. I think. Do I have time for one more question? No. I'm told that time has run out. I apologize for not seeing all the hands and being able to hand the microphones. That was a call for more funds and vocations for new inspectors at the IAEA, more inspectors at the IAEA from Director General. Please, I won't attempt to summarize what's been said. I think all the experts in the room will have enjoyed the insights that were given by Director General. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Next session will begin sharply at 2 o'clock back in the hall across the atrium. I would also announce that in case you missed it, because we announced it rather late last week, that Senator Tim Kaine will be our final speaker, moderated by George Perkovich, tomorrow afternoon. So please stick around for the discussion on Iran as it continues tomorrow afternoon with Senator Tim Kaine. Thank you.